Shaitan Rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, to the show, Think About It. So we hope that you have some decent plans in place for Eid al-Adha that's coming up. And inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our sacrifices that we'll be doing, the dhabihah that people will be doing, and we hope that you have a blessed and wonderful Eid. Today's topic is an interesting one. It's one that is very much attractive to young people, especially the young generation. And it's something that the old generation, or well, parents and Generation X, sometimes say is a waste of time. Today, we're going to be answering that question if it actually is a waste of time or not. Today's topic, video gaming and esports. So I'd like to start off today by talking about how video gaming actually started out. So to understand this phenomena, what we have to do is we have to go back to the history of gaming and actually find out how did it come about? Who was it pitched at? Why does it exist? And today, in 2019, the projected amount of money that the video game industry made was $152.1 billion. So from just a mere idea or somebody saying you're wasting your time playing games to a $152.1 billion company. So we must go back to 1954 when the phenomena of an interactive game was just about to begin. There's a student in the University of Michigan that made a dot move from one side to another and had it as a presentation, kind of like a wallpaper, which is live nowadays. That's what we could compare it by. And put it in the university, basically, auditorium where people could have a look at it. Later on, a company by the name of Magnavox, which is the first ever gaming company, created a game called Pong. So that meant it was actually playing table tennis with a ball moving from side to side while you had two pillars or posts which you could control. And this later on moved on with another company coming into the scene called Atari. Now Atari might be something that a lot of people who are in their late 30s, early 30s, even 40s right now and my age are familiar with. Atari was the first ever console that we heard about. Atari took this game of Pong and made it a bit faster, more exciting for the people who play this game. Now the question is, who was it aimed at? To be frankly honest with you, initially these games were aimed at public places where there used to be bars, there used to be restaurants, there used to be, for example, stadiums where matches used to take place. And this was for the avid viewer of those matches, those audience members. So when they would have free time, if there was an intermission, if there was a halftime going on between a game, they would resort to this arcade machine so they could play this game. And as you could imagine, because it was the first of its kind and it was interactive, it caught fire. And a lot of people started playing this. Let alone that people tried to knock this off as well, but it opened the doors for the development of gaming. And we move on to the year 1971, where Magnavox created the actual first ever gaming console, which was attached to home television. At that time, television itself was a new phenomenon. And it was attached to home TVs. And it was called the Odyssey. The Odyssey was the first ever gaming console, where you could play different types of games. We move on to 1975, 1981, where gaming started developing. Different consoles were released. A lot of companies, a lot of people who had studied IT, software engineering, they got into this. And they wanted to find out how they could actually get a piece of the pie. They wanted to get into that industry, which was quite hot, it was on fire, and everybody wanted to be a part of it. In 1981, there was a Japanese game developer who created a game called Stubborn Gorilla. So it was actually a gorilla. He used to go on top of a ladder, and he had basically taken a damsel who was in distress, many stories that we've heard about, and he used to throw down barrels to people. And there was one man who was throwing the barrels down too, and this person would have to jump over the barrels and try to make it to the top. This game was later on known as Donkey Kong. How did that name come about? The first name was Stubborn Gorilla. The term stubborn, that word in Japanese, actually translates to donkey in English. And the word gorilla in Japanese translates to Kong. So Donkey Kong came into the picture. Later on, people started focusing on the very plumber, that character that was trying to be the hero, of course, who you controlled. And that person was first called Jumpman. And that same Japanese developer was told by his CEO that they need to give this character an identity. They need to make this character flourish and become big. And they said, you have to come up with a better name. So the CEO apparently had a few harsh words that he shared with the Japanese developer. And that CEO's name was Mario Segali. So what the Japanese developer ended up doing is he called that character Mario. And today, Mario is the official mascot of Nintendo. Mario Brothers, Super Smash Brothers, all these games that include that character, till date, came from that story in the 1980s, early 1980s. Games like Space Invaders, Frogger, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, these were 4 basic games that took everyone. And it was on the mainstream media, it was going about. And everybody wanted to be a part of it. Consoles such as Odyssey, the first ever type, then there was Intellivision, there was Commodore 64, and an interesting fact is that Atari, when it was becoming new and it had that ping pong game which had a bit of a faster, let's say, demographic to it, one of its early employees was Steve Jobs, the man who owned Apple. He was a gaming developer. He left Atari to start his company Apple. But what he didn't leave was his connection with gaming. Because when the Apple II computer was released, it had functionality to be able to play games on it. So when computer gaming came about, it's all thanks to Steve Jobs for actually integrating that processor and that platform into modern day computing. Now we move on to 1983, when a huge crash took place in the world of gaming. People were about to stop gaming because your key demographic, those people who were at games, at auditoriums, at bars, at restaurants that were going to play games, weren't really that interested anymore. So then arcades opened up, and Nintendo stepped up. They got the console called Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, and they pitched it at the new generation, at children, and that caught even more fire. Long story short, up until the 1980s, 1990s, and now we come down to 2000s, and we're in the 21st century now. The transformation from raster type graphics, which means 2D pixelated graphics, it moved to 3D graphics. And nowadays, games are more focused on the graphics themselves. You had handheld gaming consoles that were released, the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy itself, Virtual Boy, the Neo Geo Pocket, and all these other different consoles came out. What I want to know today, and before I share some more statistics with you, is that gaming has become definitely a very big industry. And I've just shared a very brief history with you. I have with me in the studio today a person who is an official professional gamer, a person who makes money off of this, a person who sees gaming in a different light. Not only a quick wit, but somebody who knows his gaming. I'd like to welcome to the show Ali Zarar Atif. Assalamu alaikum. Ali, how are you today?
Wa alaikum assalam, Salman. Thank you for the great introduction. I'm doing fantastic.
No Great. So basically, when it comes down to gaming, I mean, I myself am a gamer. I mean, I've owned from the home computer to Nintendo 64 all the way up to the PlayStation series. In my house right now, I have a PS4. I've got a Nintendo Switch as well. And whenever I find myself with free time, I do play it. Now, obviously, a new concept of online gaming came about as well. And it's not a very new phenomenon. I mean, with high-speed internet, being able to play with somebody who's in another country. But the science behind it and what it's become today is something that I think a lot of people don't really understand. It's a big market, but they don't understand. But you're somebody who's not only tapped into that market, but you're somebody who's actually using it to benefit yourself in some way of income generation and your own knowledge within this subject. So I'd like you to enlighten our viewers and let them know what's up.
All right, so I'll be going over the role of the internet when it comes to not only esports, but just gaming, being able to game with people across the world, even across the street. And I'll also be going over how competition in games has changed from the the time slots that Saman was talking about to the time slot of nowadays. So just to start off and use as a point of comparison for later, I'll be bringing up the Space War competition at Stanford University in 1972. So Space War, it was more so like a single player experience. You're playing by yourself, trying to attain a high score by doing a mission. And this tournament that took place in 1972, the way it worked was you would play your single player game, you would get your score, and at the end, a handful of people with the scores that they attained, they would report them to like a set of people, and the person with the highest score would win the prize. So at the end of this tournament, Bruce Baumgart actually won this tournament, and the prize he won for that, like the first, competition, was a year subscription to the Rolling Stone magazine. So you can think about that. So people, playing this game, going against each other, and the prize he won was a Rolling Stone yearly subscription. So just keep this in mind for later. Another pivotal moment was in 1981, Walter Aldo Day Jr. founded Twin Galaxies. So this was his company because he was aiming to not only promote gaming, but focus on the score element of it and the high score element. So because the internet wasn't a thing yet, what he did was he would take these scores of people that were basically passed around through word of mouth, since the internet wasn't existent, and he would take these scores and report them to the Guinness Book of World Records. And not only did this create a new entry for gaming into, for the rest of society, but it also put more focus on esports. Being able to get a high score, being able for everyone in the world to know, okay, this person in, let's say, Ontario, Canada, has the highest score in the world for this game and this segment. That was really pivotal for gaming. Apart from that, Starcade, it was basically a TV show. It aired arcade game competitions. Now this was immense for gaming entertainment and spectator potential in esports, and it basically gave gaming an entryway into mainstream media.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, actually. So basically, the concept of competitive nature within games has existed from a very long time.
Yes.
But the fact of it becoming something that has incentives has also existed for a long time. But to monetize it is something that was just the tip of the iceberg that kind of came up. It was basically something that people just knew was in the right direction.
Yes.
So that's interesting. So basically, from the 1970s, people have been having competitions for gaming. Mm-hmm. As you said before, it was probably people playing together. Your timings, your score was the thing that used to be on top.
Yep.
And then later on, it became, as you mentioned, Twin Galaxies, is what you said?
Twin Galaxies was, so where they would record the scores, send them globally to, for example, the Guinness Book of World Records.
So it was like an archive which had the information of different gamers who had these many points.
Exactly.
And then you have first, second, and third.
The Twin Galaxies is basically an authentic source that would filter through these entries and then pick and choose the highest scores and send them to other media outlets.
All right, that's actually quite interesting. So please do carry on.
So some of our viewers may hear of gaming competition, and the first thing that pops into mind is games like FIFA, competitions in Call of Duty, team versus team. This concept of score versus score, two people sitting beside each other and playing a single player game they're completely isolated of one another and just trying to get a high score, then comparing at the end. It's a really foreign a foreign concept. And when you think of esports nowadays, that's not really what you think of when it comes to competitive gaming. And this is important because that's how much the internet's actually affected gaming. So the first official online team-based game was called Netric. It was a 16-player game and is credited to be the first team-based online game that came out in 1988. The reason it was considered the first team-based online game was because not only did all 16 players were able to play online, but it also took in user information such as their locations, their scores, and it kept them on the server, on an open-based server. So this game paved the way for many of its successors and allowed the online gaming world to expand beyond any expectations anyone had for it. After this, in the 90s, fighting games one-on-one, such as, you guys may recognize the names Mortal Kombat, for example, fighting one-on-one, or Street Fighter. So the concept of this, you would both choose a character at the start of the match, and you would use the abilities and basically fight each other. And the way tournaments for these would last, it would be a King of the Hill / ladder type of event, where basically it would just be a ladder, and the person that would pretty much be undefeated throughout the tournament would win. Following this genre of basically fighting games, FPS, first-person shooters, were the next big thing, the next most popular thing, with the game Quake being kind of its entryway. The first big tournament in esports that's ever happened was actually regarding the game Quake. Basically, the lead developer held this tournament with over 2,000 participants, and the prize, get this, was the lead developer's Ferrari. So you go from in the span of a decade or two, the lead prize for a really big competition going from a yearly magazine subscription to a passionate lead developer's own car.
So this would mean that there was a lot of sponsorship and people were actually putting a lot of money into this industry.
Yes.
So from, as you said, a magazine subscription to, let's say, a car that's well worth over $1 million as a prize.
Yeah, so the lead developer, he was so passionate and he was so enthusiastic about gaming and wanted to develop it further. Like, just think about how much news attention a gaming event like that would get if the prize was a Ferrari, you know? That's how people started taking it seriously, started thinking like, oh, if I could get into gaming, I could get good enough to win like prizes, I could win a Ferrari. That was one of the lead. Some other big tournaments were the Nintendo World Championships in 1990, Nintendo Power Fest 1994, Cyber Athlete Professional League, and QuakeCon, you know, just some other big tournaments.
So basically, these tournaments were a way to get people interested in gaming. And because it was a booming industry, and because it did appeal to the younger demographic, a lot of people kind of came in, a lot of companies saw what was happening, because I've read that before the introduction of Sony PlayStation, Sony actually ended up sponsoring and putting money into different gaming industries, events, and as you know, there's a Comic-Con. There used to be a Game-Con before as well, where people used to just show off their consoles. So them putting money in actually meant that it was going to expand. But my question to you is, all these gaming events that have taken place and all these prizes, I mean, obviously we saw the dichotomy between what it used to be and what it is today, and the prizes itself. The key demographic that was focused on, the actual competitors, the people who were gamers, such as yourself, what age group and what generation were they looking at? What was the target market?
So initially, like you said, they were more focused on adults in public spaces. After the event in 1983, I believe you said.
That's correct.
After that, it started shifting towards the younger ages. So people anywhere from the age of 12 to 20 were taking interest in these games, taking interest in FPS shooters, you know, in these games because they had the most free time.
And you also mentioned, I mean, you mentioned different genres as well. So you started off with, let's say, team-based games that you mentioned, and then you went on to fighting games such as Mortal Kombat. I mean, I remember playing Mortal Kombat in an arcade as well, and then it moved on to first-person shooters. So the question I think that I have in mind is that with the different genres available now, so you have platformers, you have fighting games, you have first-person shooters. I mean, when it comes down to research or your actual audience and people that are playing, in this turn, now you said that 12 years old and above were the people that were coming in for these competitions. But these games and these genres themselves, who do they appeal to most?
So during this time to compete for actual money and prizes, the age was actually 16 plus, 18 plus for most of the games. This is important because nowadays, I'll use Fortnite as an example because they're one of the most revenue-generating games, as well as they hand out the biggest prize pools. Their age to make money is 13.
I see. So before you're 13, you can't really enter into the tournament?
No. Currently, there's no game that really allows you to make money off gaming through esports if you're under the age of 13, just for legal issues, you know.
Right. For consent as well with parents and have to know what's happening. So 13 and plus, you could be a person who's potentially not only a gamer, but somebody who's actually making some decent revenue off of gaming. Yeah,
so again, I'll use Fortnite as an example because it's something I've also entered into. From my experience, when you enter, when you get above the age of 13, not only are you able to make money off the game through like legitimate prize pools, but as well as getting contracted to a team. So let's say a team is scouting, just like football teams, like they're scouting talent. They see you're making a lot of money off the game. They want you to represent them. So every time you do make money, it's like, okay, this is a player for this team.
So basically, they kind of sponsor you.
Yeah, so they would pay you a salary, which pays well over like the average. I'll use an example of like a teacher or something, right? They get paid well over. They get paid well over for a teacher just because how rare that talent is nowadays, right?
So basically, gaming has become an industry where people see it as a career path as well. So with those people who go to university and colleges to study, let's say engineering or education and arts and all these other things, and they become architects, and they go out and they want to, after they've got their degree in their hand, they go and give interviews and they want to get a job, and then they end up securing a contract. It's basically the same dynamic. So if you're a good gamer and you've made some decent money as well, you've played on online platforms, there are going to be companies that will reach out to you and offer you contracts. Am I correct?
Yes.
And then you're actually salaried to play.
Yep.
That is awesome. Teach me how to play. I want to be salaried as well. I'm just
Exactly
a teacher,
like
you know, at the end of the day.
So with gaming, there's actually multiple streams of revenue. So not only are you making money from the game itself, you're making money from your contract, from sponsors. Aside from that, content creation is actually huge for gaming. So let's say
Describe
there's
a little bit more about content.
So in terms of content creation, it's as simple as, let's say you're playing a competitive match and you upload those 20 minutes, 30 minutes onto YouTube. Those views that you get on YouTube, then you can monetize that through ads and make money off that. Same thing with live streaming. So the only difference between live streaming and YouTube videos is that live streaming, you're basically watching TV. You're watching someone play in live. And they also make money through that, through donations, subscriptions. I was actually a part of that. So in the recent year or two, I've gotten into live streaming games. And through that, I've made a significant amount of money, a few $1,000 towards my university tuition. And I'm on this smaller scale of making money from gaming. Like in no way do I consider myself an avid like a huge professional gamer.
I do
I'm on,
have
like,
a
the smaller
question for
side.
you. I'm
Yeah,
sorry to cut you off, but I do have a question for you. For, let's say, people like me who've just been mesmerized by everything that you've said,
Yep.
I'm sure that there are young people at home who are watching this show today. I mean, we've got, like, at the end of the month, we get like 2 million viewers as well for this show specifically, and we thank those viewers for watching. But for those people who are actually finding all the stats and the statistics and the research of use, I hope, because this is actually something really big, it's a big industry. You got into gaming and you ended up seeing some decent revenue coming your way. You saw some income coming. How does one become a gamer to make some money? I mean, how do I get into a game that I enjoy? Like, for example, my games are more arcade type, but I love Mortal Kombat. I love to play games which are enabled with sports as well. So I play some cricket games on PS4 as well. I play some FIFA soccer games as well. So for me to end up wanting to make money, what platforms are available? How can I get into it? And I'm pretty sure the viewers could actually benefit from this as well. So what was your journey?
In terms of getting into esports, so let's say as a person that's completely new to this concept of making money off games, but they want to get into games, like they love games, they just want to make money off of it. It used to be really hard in terms of to even get into the scene. You would have to find a team that was willing to basically support you and vouch for you. Nowadays, it's as simple as picking up a PS4 or an Xbox, plugging in an Ethernet cord, getting connected to the internet, and just playing. It's as easy as that to make money.
Wait a second. I got to get personal with you.
Okay.
I've got a PS4.
Okay.
I've got an Ethernet cable. All right. What's next? I have to plug it in, and what do I have to do?
So in terms of the different games, one of the newest games that just came out is Valorant. So in order to make money off Valorant, currently the only tournaments available are basically, again, like I was saying, back in the scene, you would have to find a team to sponsor you. So even on Valorant, you can't play on PS4, but let's say you had a PC, you would have to basically find 4 of your friends, play the game enough with them to where you were experienced together, and just it's a matter of just practicing daily, and getting a talent scout to notice you.
Okay. So when you're actually playing online games, there are live scouts who are basically taking a look at the talent.
Yes.
So like, for example, back in the day, I remember when I used to play cricket in high school and stuff, and I dreamed of being a cricket player. I mean, I didn't go too far, but alhamdulillah, I got to play under 19 every now and then. So you'd have a scout who used to come. So basically, we'd play for our school, and then our school would deem us really good to play, and then we'd go and join a club. And then when we joined the club, we'd go there on weekends and do practice and stuff. And then there would be a match that happened against another club. And when that match would be taking place, there'd be a scout or two sitting down. So you're telling me that the process itself, when you actually have those 4 or 5 friends, and you're playing, I'm guessing, online, like a normal battle or something of the sort, there are live scouts that are actually watching your performance?
Well, so I'll compare it to your sport anecdote. So in terms of sports, you were saying how you basically like to play for fun, then you became more competitive, right?
Correct.
Fighting, playing against other teams. It's just like that. So in almost every single competitive game that's out right now, there's a competitive game mode. So you basically play. The more you play, the more you win. You get a higher score.
Right.
And as your score gets higher and higher, you start showing up on the leaderboard.
Right.
So that's also where live streaming and making YouTube videos is important, because that's how talent scouts see you.
Right.
The only other place for talent scouts to see you is the leaderboard, and that you can't really judge a player just off their scores, right? You want to, in order for them, for you to pick them for your team, you have to see how they play, how they deal with their teammates, like their personality, just aside from their skill.
Right.
So that's where making YouTube videos and live streaming is important.
I've heard of a platform called Twitch. I've heard of Steam as well. So I'm not very well aware of what Twitch is exactly. I mean, in the beginning when somebody said Twitch, I thought they were saying Twitter, but they stuttered. So for those people who don't know what Twitch is, could you shed some light on that too?
So Twitch is basically TV for video games. That's
see.
how it started out, was people wanted an avenue to watch video games like live television.
Right.
And since then it's evolved from simply going from just video games, like just going from Call of Duty and Fortnite, to going into more like more open genres. Like there's a just chatting section where anyone can stream anything. There's people on there doing woodworking, there's people on there fixing cars, fishing.
Oh, okay.
You know, and they all have their own
included,
audience.
like do-it-yourself kind of skills
Yes.
as well, and daily life things. So their audience has actually grown from just gamers to regular people as well.
It was a smart
That's
business decision on their plan
Oh,
to
no,
just
definitely.
instead of just making it solely for gamers, it's for gamers as well as anyone else. For example, there's plenty of channels on there for engineering. There's channels that go into robotics and make robots.
Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting. But coming back to gaming, so basically, I've understood what you've said about getting good at a game, and then there are different modes. So when you open up a game, it has a competitive mode on it. You can go on it, and you're playing online with people.
Yep.
And obviously, the more you win, the battles that you're winning, or whether they're football matches or cricket matches, the more you win, the more points you get, and obviously you show up on the leaderboard.
Yep.
So if there's a scout who's looking for somebody, they're just going to go to a game, they're going to look at the leaderboard, and they're going to see a few people, look at your performance, and you might end up landing yourself a contract.
Exactly.
All right. And going further from that, so now you've mentioned a few games, and you've mentioned Fortnite because you've got experience of that too, and Twitch being a platform where people can watch you play a game. What I would like to know now is the different games that are available that people play. I'm pretty sure they're like top 5 or top 6 games which have taken over, but what other genres of games are available? Like, for example, let's say card games that people like. Like back in the day, on your PC, you'd open up and you'd have like a Spider Solitaire or a solitaire game to play. Do such games get played on a competitive level as well?
Yes. So one of the things that I love about Twitch is the fact that it's able to basically pay people money in a competitive scene for any game. So, for example, the recent most popular game that's starting to rise on Twitch is actually chess. So people play chess online. There's Twitch actually sponsors them themselves. They set a prize pool for, let's say, I think it was $50,000, the one that they did last time. So the winner would get, I believe, it's either $15,000 or $20,000. But it's like you take a few hours out of your day. You know you're good at chess. You know you play online against a few people. And chess, people don't really, when you think of video games and you think of making money off video games, people don't really think of chess. But this just goes to show how many behind-the-scenes video games that maybe aren't as popular but still exist. Other examples are racing games, extremely popular. You know, Formula One games, just racing games in general.
I remember Need for Speed, Gran Turismo, all these games that I've played myself, and definitely there's something there. I do have a question now, because I might actually implement on this.
Right away, go ahead.
If you want to, let's say, hold a tournament, like for example, we live in Canada, I haven't heard much about tournaments happening here.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there are people playing online and they're playing whatever, but let's say I want to start a tournament, and I can get sponsors and we can make it happen. What would be my medium and my way to approach that? How do I make a tournament, let's say, for chess? I mean, for me, what I'm looking at is my demographic should be that I know that adults usually tell kids nowadays that you're wasting your time playing games, but by everything that you've said and the strength of your words, I can tell you that's not really wasting time anymore.
No.
It's more of like a future career path or like a revenue stream that could be created. So if we want to get into that, what would we have to do? And I want to get adults on board as well. So if you have games like chess, I mean, adults do like it, games like cards as well. And I'm pretty sure a lot of RPGs and a lot of other games that are being played today do require strategy. As we were mentioning before as well, before the show, we talked about strategy. And definitely strategy means that you're using your mind as well. So it's something that could definitely interest older people.
Yep.
I'm talking about people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s. But because they never really give gaming that thought, they think it's more of a child-oriented thing, they never really give it a chance. So how can we actually bring that up, set up a tournament, and I'll take care of the adults. I'll bring you guys on.
So there's basically 3 elements to holding a tournament. One is sponsors. You say you have that handled.
Right.
Second is getting the word out. You basically want to let everyone know. It's as simple as giving newsletters at people's doors or having an online ad. We're holding a tournament. Third is to find a game that you'd like to play. So, for example, you could do cards or chess, and then find an avenue to play it online. So there's plenty of websites. I'll use chess as an example. Just contact the owner of the website through an email. Let them know, hey, want to hold this tournament. This is the time frame I want to hold it at. And pretty much every single time they'll allow you to hold this tournament because it's only positive for them. They're just getting like a pre-publicity.
Well, definitely. They're getting publicity, they're getting known as well, and their game is being used as well.
Exactly.
But what equipment would I require in order to actually have it set up?
Oh, anyone can. The only equipment you need is just a computer with internet. That's all you need.
That's all I need.
That's all you need.
And then I just need to create a server or something on it and host it happening.
Yep.
All right, so you're going to teach me how to create a server, by the way, at the end of this show. Me and Ellie are going to sit down. We're going to end up creating a server. We're going to end up finding out how we can get this done. Anything else, Ellie? Please let us know.
One thing, I wanted to do a little bit of research before the show just to get a bigger understanding of the demographic that actually play video games nowadays. One of the surprising figures I'd like to share is that in 2020, 38% of people that play video games worldwide are between the ages of 18 and 34.
Wow.
34%. Another statistic is 6% of all gamers are 65 plus.
That's actually really cool, to be honest with you.
60, yeah. So you can imagine there's plenty of grandpas out there, grandmas out there playing, not necessarily, like they wouldn't be obviously playing games like first-person shooters, although they can. They'd be playing games like, there's just plenty of games for them to play, right?
But I would say that it's a really good thing for people of all ages to get into it because it's definitely a good time pass, and if it definitely requires you to do strategy, and there are areas where whether it's a real-time based strategy, whether it's an impulsive thing, whether you're in the real world playing like Fortnite or like all the other games that are out there, whether it be fighting, I mean, genres depend on your personality and what you like, really. I mean, you've got people who don't like fighting platforms, you like people who love first-person shooters, you got people who hate first-person shooters, so that does go from personality to personality, but it's definitely awesome to hear that there are quite a few people, older ages, are definitely involved in gaming, and I think we could get that spread out. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if we hold a tournament sometime in Canada, we'll get a lot of more people coming up.
Yep.
You think we can make that happen?
Of course.
Are you with me on board?
Yes, I am.
All right, so me and Ali have just made a pact right now. We're in phase 3, so COVID's all good and well. I'm going to shake your hand on this. We're going to make this happen. We're going to make this happen. We're going to do some kind of a tournament hopefully soon, and you'll find out more details about it as well. We've got a few cameramen at the back as well who are like really good, and they're going to be helping us out with everything that we do. They're IT whizzes at the back. We've got a pro gamer with us as well. And other than that, we're running out of time for the show. But Ali, I do want to thank you for coming on the show today, enlightening everybody. I mean, you've actually educated us quite a bit on the philosophy and the world of gaming, to be honest with you. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Before we part, are there any words that you could pass to our dear viewers?
The only really thing that I'd like to say is that, as an example, I'll use gaming as an example. Just keep an open mind when it comes to subjects like these. Like in the past, people have thought that gaming is just like a hobby and can't really be taken seriously. But just as I've proven, it's like people are making money off of it, serious money off of it. They're paying off their college tuitions. They're making it a livelihood. So just keep an open mind. You know, anything's you can make anything into a job.
And I guess it's not something that you have to delve 100% into either, but it's something that could help you out even if you have a stable job or even if you're going through it. And as Ali has mentioned, kids of age 13 and plus can actually get into it and legally play for a team, get a contract even. So that's quite awesome to know. I mean, you can get that financial support happening as well while you're having fun and indulging in a hobby. So before we leave, please do subscribe to Awaz Entertainment on YouTube. Hit the bell icon because you know what? You need to know what's happening and you'll be alerted every single time. And thank you very much for viewing the show today. As always, our topic was video gaming and esports. Think about it. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.